What's good, Ohio Cannabis Report family? It's your boy Gerald Moore Jr. tapping in. It's been a few days since I've done any updates. Um, and so I wanted to start the week off. Happy Monday. I know there's been a lot going on in the world, so I just want to, tap in with everybody. Just a disclaimer, this is an independent media platform. So this is 21 and up. Nothing's for sale. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a doctor. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. These are my opinions. These are my thoughts outside of news articles and things that I show. And I do not own the rights to the information. And so my opinions are not the representation of any organization that I may be in contact with or represent. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, follow us on all of our other social media platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I try to hit them all. And then if you have any information that you want to send, I got it at the scrolling at the bottom. You can send content information to Ohio Cannabis Report at gmail.com. If you have any hot and juicy stories for us that you want us to cover, like I said, I am not a part of any of the organizations. I do have my own nonprofit, which is Green Environmental Outreach. You can go to our website, glnonprofit.org, and we're all about giving back to the community, creating awareness in rural and urban communities with a lot of the issues that are impacting our communities, being African American. Cannabis, the prohibition of cannabis, the war on drugs has been something that has greatly impacted me personally and my community. And so I look at cannabis as something that sits at the intersection, whether it's healthcare, economics, education, infrastructure, roads, bridges, health and human services. Cannabis sits at the intersection of that. You look at all the money that's coming into the state with cannabis, and it just shows you the promise that cannabis has. So I think also cannabis is bigger than just consuming it for medical and recreational purposes. I am also a fan of hemp and all of its different forms and uses. So we are trying to be a platform to educate and motivate the community to just be more vocal, right? In the stigma of what's been going on in our society. A lot of it's just stigma based, right? A lot of it's just outdated narratives. They want to say, oh, we want to protect the children. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, yes, we have to regulate, but we also have to allow people to be involved in this industry. We have to allow um, uh, average people. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a community member. Like I said, I'm a nonprofit president, entrepreneur, CEO. And so cannabis doesn't stop me from doing anything in my life. It doesn't stop me from being a good citizen, a good father, a good husband. It actually, I think, improves my life, especially being a former athlete and somebody that has dealt with a lot of pain and PTSD and things that growing up. So cannabis is something that helps me. I'm not really a drinker like that, maybe special occasions, having a good time. But I don't really do pills either. You know what I mean? It's really just cannabis that helps me with a lot of different things that I deal with. So that's why I'm all about it. That's why we started this platform, just to hopefully, inspire, motivate, and encourage people. Also, I am a published author in the book Courage and Cannabis. We have a few people from Ohio in this book. It was actually authored by an Ohio doctor, Dr. Bridget Williams. And so there's about 30 different authors sharing their different stories in this book. Here's my story. I share my All-American Cannabis story about being an All-American football player and navigating the Division I NCAA drug testing policies back in the day. And so you can go get that book. It's on Amazon. We also have an ebook. I think the book online is like $13, or you can order it from me if you want to. I charge about $20 because I have to do shipping. I can also autograph it and sign it for you. But Mike Tyson wrote a forward, or Mike Tyson, CEO of his company, wrote the forward of the book. Adam Wilkes, and then Mike Tyson actually wrote like a quote. He wrote a quote in the book as well. So, and this is Adam, the CEO of Tyson 2.0. Who else we got in the book? Pretty good stories. Danielle Simone Brand, a cannabis journalist and author. Rick Antis out of Michigan. He's doing a lot of great work in Michigan. Shout out to Rick. We got Jamie Lynn. She's out of Ohio. Who else might y'all know? Frederica Easley. She does a lot of work, Director of Strategic Initiatives at the People's Ecosystem. She also has, she's the host of the People Are Blunt podcast. Lakeisha Randall, which is Broderick Randall's sister, who Broderick's pretty deep in the cannabis industry here in Ohio. So yes, a lot of great stories. Mary Jane Borden, she's an author, graphic artist, journalist. I think we have like a cannabis lawyer in here. Yeah, Natasha Andrews is a lawyer. So yeah, there's a ton of great stories of people navigating the cannabis space pre-legalization and obviously during legalization. We got Brown Scarberry. She was a teacher. So yeah, man, and this one of the reasons I decided to write my story and share my story, because I think it's important. Xavier Burrows, he's a grower, cultivator here in Ohio, but it's important for people to share stories, you know what I mean? And that's how we get people to understand, like, you know, people think, you know, a lot of these politicians, big business people know what weed is, right? Like if you went to college, like some of our brightest minds have smoked weed, done ecstasy pills, psychedelics, right? Shrooms, whatever, Molly. But then you get to the level where we're at now as adulthood, and you have this older generation of like, well, you know, we over index with the fucking opioids and pills. So now we have all these zombies and fentanyl. And then weed is just, oh my God, it's weed. Like the kids are getting weed. Like I was smoking weed at 16, 17. I went to Catholic private school in Washington, D.C. It didn't stop me from being a Division I athlete. It didn't stop me from getting a scholarship. It didn't stop me from becoming an All-American. It didn't stop me from trying out for the NFL. You know what I mean? So again, you can overdo anything, right? If you don't have the proper guardrails, if you don't have motivation, if you don't have goals, aspirations, dreams, whatever, you know what I mean? You could smoke weed and just be lazy and do nothing, right? Like you can go to work, come home, smoke weed and do nothing, or you could just not work and smoke weed. I don't know. That's just not my DNA. You know what I mean? I smoke weed to get shit done. You know what I mean? Like if I do need to smoke weed to rest and relax or consume something that's going to help me mellow out and relax, I will do that. But I also use cannabis before I go to work out. You know what I mean? Before I start my day, just to help me knock the cobwebs out, stretch, relax, let my body feel right. You know what I mean? So this whole ideology that weed is just this bad thing. And they're always using these scare tactics, and they're always trying to use the children as a cover up. And it's like, no, first of all, the kids need to be being prepared to get into this industry, because right now, economically, we're struggling with getting kids, you know, to get in the industry, right? Kids aren't going to college, too much money, too much debt. So we need an alternative industry, right? We need solar, we need wind, we need different renewable energy sources, because these are economies to help get people back to work. Cannabis is another economy to help get people back to work, right? And so it's also a way of generating income and money, right? If we can grow our own, and then we can sell our own, create little micro, markets legally, right? Obviously, people are doing it already, but a lot of people, again, you make a lot of money and put that, you're gonna just hold it cash, okay? Like you can't put it in the bank, and I know some banks are allowing it, but you know, people think they're gonna get over on taxes, and you're not. Like eventually, they'll let you go 10, 15 years, and they're gonna come, where my money at? So that's why people need to be speaking up and leveraging their voices. My grandparents pretended to not use cannabis, but we found my grandpa's gummy. Oh no, hey, hell no, grandpa holding out on the gummies. And that's the thing too. It's a lot of old people. Like we gotta understand. Like, I'm 36, right? I'm a millennial. This whole like y'all was smoking hella weed back in the day. Like the old people, you know what I mean? They was doing anything, and you're not gonna tell me weed is bad when alcohol is doing so much damage. So the fact that this push towards weed and that it's so bad, But we can see an alcohol commercial or billboard any and everywhere. We see Budweiser trucks driving down the street. But in Ohio, you can't even market and advertise cannabis. You know what I mean? But we can see all of the gross, well, McDonald's, and it's just mind-boggling to me. You know what I mean? Kids can go to football games. Kids is at Ohio State games, and the dad got a fucking Bud Light just chugging it. But Jeremiah Smith is supposed to be the role model. No, the dad that's chugging the Bud Lights and mad because his parlay didn't hit. You know what I mean? So a lot of things need to get checked. You know what I mean? And that's what I've been realizing living in Ohio too. It's a lot of throwing the rock, hiding the hand, living in a glass house. You know, and that's why I'm so public about my cannabis consumption, because it's like I've been a public figure for a long time, and a lot of public figures oftentimes are public figures by way of contract, right? So they are, either a professional athlete, let's say an entertainer, musician, actor, but they have this fame and status because they've signed contracts, right? And so what I realized is when I played college ball, I had signed a contract, and in the contract it basically states we can take the scholarship, we could take this basically for whatever reason, right? And that's what a lot of people are bound to. They're bound to these contracts that your boss, like Ohio, they could just fire you. You know what I mean? And so I understood, after playing college ball, trying out for the NFL, once I got cut from the NFL and I started modeling and acting again, and I just started working, and I just started to realize, like, wow, my voice, like people say, like freedom of speech. As athletes, you don't really have much of a freedom of speech, because if you talk too much or you say something that people don't like, even if it's your thoughts, your opinions, we're going to cancel you. So then it becomes court of public opinion. Now you're being brought into the office. Now you're being reprimanded. Hey, maybe stay away from the social media. Look, I'm a grown ass man. I do whatever the fuck I want to do. I say whatever the fuck I want to say. But when you're being paid, when you're under these contracts, a lot of people, they're not going to say stuff publicly because they don't want the potential for that contract to get taken away. And then that's their lifestyle. So that's why we don't hear from a lot of professional athletes about certain very political topics, especially athletes that aren't, like you'll see like maybe LeBron James, Kevin Durant, some of these people be more vocal, but that's because they have a lot of money. The other ones, like, nah, you ain't going to hear too much. Plus, many people don't know everybody, right? You only know 10, 15 people. Most of the actors and entertainers, they also understand we're not getting a lot of gigs. You know what I mean? So I can't be too much because, I might not get hired. People just, because it's a people game. And all the people with all the money are all the wealthy white dudes. So if the wealthy white dudes don't like you, or they don't like something you said, or they think you're too political, they're going to take their money away. And we see it time and time and time and time again. And that's why I appreciate independence. That's why I started this platform. And this goes for anybody. You know what I mean? Like, all of us come from different backgrounds. I think it's important for people to get educated and aware. But there's a lot of people that are illiterate. They can't read. They're not sharing a lot of the education information here in Ohio. Like, you look at a lot of the laws and things being passed, like people don't know who's sharing the information. The major news networks are only sharing certain information. And so I think it's important that we have more dialogue as people, especially in the cannabis space, because I think cannabis brings people together in a lot of different ways, you know what I mean? No matter your background, culture. And it opens kind of those gates of being more empathetic and open to people. So there's a lot of lazy people that don't smoke at all. I mean, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, there's tons of people that are just lazy. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. Like, laziness, I think, is more of a, they just use that's just a narrative used, right? And some people, when you talk about laziness, like we also negate the fact of like mental health. Like, some people need rest, some people need sleep, some people need to recharge, right? Some people may be dealing with trauma, maybe grieving, right? Like me and my family, like the last few years, like you guys haven't seen me very consistent and showing up all the time because me and my family have been grieving. You know what I mean? And literally the day after we lost our son, my third child, to a stillbirth, I showed up to the state house and did a press conference, right? And so I was invited to do this, and it was, I don't know if she's a lobbyist or not, but she's always at the State House. And so I didn't really know what was going on, right? Like I thought it was kind of like just a meeting, and I show up and it's a press conference. And I'm like, fuck, I'm not ready for a press conference. You know what I mean? Like my hair wasn't really done. Like, yeah, I had longer hair. Hadn't slept really in a few days. And I was literally just coming from the hospital. I didn't get a chance to go home because the press conference was early in the morning. So I didn't get the chance to go home and like clean up. So I had like a raggedy shirt on. I put the shirt on and I showed up looking like a bum. And so many people got on me for, oh, why would you show up like that? Why would you do this? Why would you do that? Oh my God. And it's like, first of all, like how many people have been invited to the State House to speak and do anything about cannabis? I was like, so for me, being somebody who has been always told that cannabis was bad, as a black man, like you, if you want to go play college ball, go pro, your background has to be squeaky clean. You can't be doing none of this stuff. I was doing it, obviously, but now it's legal, and now we need voices to come speak, about it. And so I was one, and I came and did it. Even though I was very like in a grieving state, very in a unfocused state. And so I think it's important that people understand that laziness is really just, that's people. But a lot of people are dealing with real shit too, though, right? Like a lot of people are dealing. I mean, coming out of COVID, I feel like people just act like we didn't. Oh, the kids can't read. Well, the kids were in COVID and they gave the kids computers in kindergarten. It didn't teach the kids how to use the computer, and the parents didn't know how to use the computers, and most of the parents can't read, and most of the parents were fucked up. So now you got kids in third, fourth, fifth grade, sixth grade that are struggling, kids in high school, middle school. But again, we didn't quadruple down on the resources going to the kids. The kids were struggling pre-COVID. And so I think it's important, right? Where is that cannabis money? Some of that cannabis money should be going to education, right? Resources. There's over $80 million sitting in the fund, the community fund and social equity fund and jobs fund in Ohio. And so again, there's resources, but if the people don't speak up, if the people don't contact their state representatives, they're going to keep playing these games, right? And so what we also have to realize is that midterms is coming up. And so a lot of these politicians, they run, especially at the state and local levels, they're running without having any competition. You know what I mean? And they're not getting a bunch of votes. You know what I mean? So people have to be aware of what's going on at the state level, the city level. I would say really in Ohio, the state level right now is where people should be really focused, because the state has a lot of money that it's allocating, loans, low interest rate loans, grants, tax abatements to these large corporations, these large, tech CEOs and stuff like that. And that money could be going to citizens, right? Like to help small businesses open up or expand, to help people, dealing with healthcare issues, people dealing with housing issues. Like, I mean, there's just so many issues that a lot of Ohioans are dealing with that I feel go unheard of, untalked about really in the mainstream. We also need more media. We need more people covering different political issues in Ohio. Shout out to the Rooster. There's a few people on TikTok that are doing a lot of interesting journalistic work in terms of investigation and covering and following different laws in the state of Ohio. But there's 11.8 million people in the state of Ohio. 2.7 million people voted for cannabis legalization, which is over 57% of the voters. And so there's a lot of people with cell phones, the internet, the ability to start a Facebook, YouTube. There should be more of us calling out these politicians and their bad policies and their bad legislation and bad fiscal stewardship of our tax dollars. So let me see. Do you think big money is ruining legal cannabis by keeping out small time? Oh, of course, of course. Well, because a lot of these big time dudes, right? They're not really growers, right? They're just business people. So all they care about is the balance sheet, right? Bottom line, what it look like. Can we buy some more assets? You know what I mean? Like, can we sell? Like, what are we? So I think for sure, because right now you're not seeing the true richness of the culture, right? Like you're not seeing right now. Where are the cannabis CEOs at? Are any of them sitting there talking about, oh my God, like I just love looking at the plant, listening to the plant, spending time with the plant, consuming the plant because it makes me feel this way? You know what I mean? These are the terpenes I like. No, I haven't seen one executive really at a big cannabis company, especially here in Ohio. Uh, I know MJ BizCon. I know you have some of these, events where people do, these conversations, right? But to the real, like, people that's been in the weed game, like, where are the real growers? You know what I mean? Like, where are the real ones? Like, that's what, we should be elevating them, because one, you're seeing some of these brands where they're trying to create brands now. You know what I mean? So in Ohio, you got some of the cannabis brands trying to create like lifestyle brands, and it's like, this shit is whack as fuck. You know what I mean? Like, you can't colonize the cannabis game and then try to put culture on top of it, and your weed sucks, right? And most people can't even afford your weed. So like, most people aren't going to you, right? We know people are going to Michigan. We know people are growing their own. We know. So we really know, like, the industry is being upheld by who, right? Because they're making money, clearly. I mean, money is being spent. I go look at the dispensaries, and people are at the dispensaries, whether it's a drive-through, yeah, and I have 3 within a 10-mile radius, 4 within a 10-mile radius of me. You know what I mean? And I'm in Columbus. So, and all of them, anytime I go to any of them, they not slow. You know what I mean? Like, they may, different timing, but people are going. You look on Reddit, people are buying the weed. You know what I mean? You go to Reddit, Ohio. So yeah, I think they're killing it. But again, I think average normal people have to step the fuck up. Like, we have to stop acting like this is a behind the scenes thing, underground thing. You know what I mean? Come above ground. You know what I mean? Use your voice, freedom of speech. If you're so free in America, you shouldn't be afraid to speak about cannabis publicly. You shouldn't be afraid to start up classes, organizations in your local community, bringing people in, helping them understand cannabis, going to a senior center, talking about cannabis. These are job opportunities. So many people are waiting for somebody to hire them. So many people are waiting for somebody to just pull them along. It's like, no, the cannabis industry, now is the time to create a business. It doesn't have to be a plant touching business. It can be a, ancillary business, right? That's why I got into the media space, because I'm like, there's not many people covering cannabis, Ohio cannabis, right? There's people outside the state covering their different places. I know Cannabama, in Alabama. I got my homie out in Atlanta who I just did a podcast with. So there's tons of people outside of the state of Ohio. But in terms of Ohio specific news, politics, culture, what's going on, there wasn't a lot. Ohio Cannabis Live, shout out to Anthony, Broderick, Between the Buds, and Broderick, I had to force him. Like, I'm like, dude, you're in the industry. This was like when the industry first started. I met Broderick at Terrasana, which was one of the first dispensaries. And I'm like, dude, you got to start talking, man. You're a black dude in the dispensary. Like, you got to let people know what's going on, because the state can't do it, or the state's not doing it. The companies aren't doing it, but you are yourself. You a single dude. Like, start talking your shit. You got a cell phone, start an Instagram account, start a podcast, start something. You know what I mean? And so more people got to understand, like, you could start and create your own shit. You know what I mean? Stop waiting for somebody to do it. Like, I done built these platforms, and like, I'm not making hella bread off of it, but I've connected people. I've been invited to rooms and meetings. I've hosted a few events. So there's potential there. You know what I mean? I haven't just really accelerated it. But again, there's so many opportunities in this space. But even at the policy level, right? If you're somebody that's close to Ohio or close to Columbus, if you're within an hour drive of Columbus and you are really geeked on cannabis and policy and law, you should be at the Ohio State House. You should be lobbying. You should be going to talk to the politicians, because these politicians don't know. If the average politician is 65, 70 years old, and we just got cannabis legalization 6 years ago, who's educating the politicians on what cannabis is? The lobbyists, the lawyers, and the big business people. And so they're not going to tell the lawmakers that, oh yeah, craft cannabis is great. We should really think about integrating craft cannabis growers into our business, because we know they grow way better weed. They're not using as many processes. It's way more smaller batch. It's way more cultured. They have way more freedom and liberty to move than we do. It's not going to happen. Big business is always trying to gobble up the smaller businesses. You know what I mean? And so that's why a lot of the underground dudes just stay underground. Um, some of them I do know would love to have their own dispensary or love to, do a tier 3 craft grow, but that's in the law. But again, a lot of these smaller growers can't necessarily go to bat at the state house because their margins are different, right? They don't have a bunch of employees, right? They may not have a legit business, so they don't have a bunch of people on payroll that can go do their bidding for them. If you're a craft grower, you're probably actually spending time with your plants actually growing, whereas the big CEOs of these big companies, they have the growers, they train the growers, they train, and they have a full operation. And so it's a completely different type of energy going into the plant. But I think we need more people, from the craft side, more cannabis consumers, whether you're a medical patient, whether you're just adult use recreational, especially if you like 25, if you over 25, like you should really be advocate in a more advocacy like driven space. I feel like, just in my opinion, I'm 36. I've been advocating for the plant publicly since we got legalization. Like I really didn't like I was consuming before legalization. I was a part of like the issue too. Like I wasn't really pushing it, but I was like, this is something we need. Um, but once we got legalization, that's when I started my platforms. That's when I wrote the book or my chapter in the book, and I started, just really being more public and vocal about it. And a lot of people in my space think I'm crazy because, again, former, pro athlete, Division I All-American. Brands don't really want to work with somebody that's so pro cannabis. Like I'm not Wiz Khalifa or anybody. You know what I mean? I wasn't a big standout athlete. My wife is a news anchor here in Columbus, so again, there's images, there's people that think like, oh my god, so. But that's why I created my own shit too. You know what I mean? Because I was like, I'm in the house. I've been a stay-at-home dad the last 8 years, and I was like, I needed something to do. You know what I mean? And so cannabis, Ohio Cannabis Report kind of just fell in line, and then I started Athletes in Cannabis. And just started to learn the process of policy, law. We hosted a few events, online events, with Juanita Brent. She's a state representative, and so she broke down basically. It's on our YouTube too. So she basically broke down how a law or how a law is made in the state of Ohio. Which I think a lot of people just need to understand basic civics of how our laws are formed and made, that you can actually go to the state capitol, the state house, and basically go to their lawyers and have a law and a bill crafted. You can go meet with your state representatives. Like if you pay taxes, like they work for you, so they have to meet with you. It's one of them things like they could run, you could email, you could call them, but you could show up at their job and be like, yeah, I need to talk to you. You know what I mean? And so you could go talk to the governor. We had a bill signed actually into law by the governor. Was it this year? The beginning of this year. My family, we had a stillbirth. And so my father-in-law, he sits on the governor's board for pastors, ministers, something like that. And so once we lost our son, me and my wife being a news anchor, obviously it got a lot of attention. And so we got a stillbirth prevention awareness bill passed. And I don't really know like the political shit like that. But we took a picture with the governor and did all, he signed off on the bill. And so like for me, like I know politics is politics is politics is politics is politics is politics. All right. Like there's so much smoke and mirrors. Like there's so many people, so many different moving parts. And so what I try to get people to understand, like, even if you're not like Republican, because like I'm not a Democrat or Republican, I'm more independent. I voted more in line with Democrat policies. But I'm also from poverty, working class America, got moved to middle class, upper middle class, went to private school. And I'm like, when people got money, money's not an issue. You know what I mean? Like when you got money, it don't really matter. You know what I mean? But when you don't have money, it matters. And so for me, yeah, people deserve to have basic human services and rights, right? Home, shelter, food, clothing, and healthcare, right? Education. So I believe people deserve that baseline. And so when you just see like most people aren't receiving that, it's a little, it could throw you off. I'm not from Ohio. I'm not from Columbus. So the politics is real weird. You get out into rural America, you get into Appalachia, you get into the cities, you know what I mean? Dayton, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus. So the politics is a lot different. But when you realize you get out into like farm towns, some of these country towns, and you're like, the fact that y'all voting like this is insanity. You know, because I'm like, this not helping y'all. Now I don't align with the democratic policies of like all this money and bullshit that they be just throwing away. You know what I mean? Because I don't really benefit. I've never been on government assistance a day in my life. You know what I mean? I've always been well cared for. My parents, my grandparents had a job. I grew up and was raised by my grandparents the first few years of my life. My dad and stepmom, they was making six figures by the time I turned 7, 8 years old, or at least, upper 70, 80,000. But I know once I got to like middle school, high school, my parents was raking it in because I was like, shit, nigga, we live. I'm Fresh Prince of Bel Air. So when you see money and you know how money moves, and then you see like communities like Springfield, Ohio, or Athens, or some of these towns, and I'm just like, oh my god, it's sad because like, what the fuck do you do? Like, who the fuck am I? People don't listen to me, right? Like people, if you know I'm a football player, you might listen, right? Like if you see my accolades, you might listen. But if you don't fucking know me, like I'm just another black dude that's just talking. And so like I'm in rooms, I'm with people, but I'm usually the youngest. I'm usually the only black man. And it's like, oh shit, the fuck he know. So that's why I just come online and talk my shit. You know what I mean? And I build my companies. That's hilarious. Yeah, even my parents use CBD, and I think we got to get the older folks talking about it, right? Like one of the biggest groups, fastest groups of cannabis consumers is the older population. So we definitely got to get them right. You got my vote if you man. Man, I've thought about it, but I love my privacy. Um, and politics is just all about money right now, man, and it's a popularity thing, and I don't. I could probably see myself the state level. I mean, if I ran at the state level, like we'd be lit. Like I'd run for governor. We'd be lit as fuck. Like I know people that I'd hire for my staff, and like people think like I be on threads. I talk a lot of shit, right? Like I didn't grow up around white people, so like white people don't scare me. Like I know all types, right? But being in Ohio is different. And so it's like we like compared to like outside. I know people be like Ohio against the world. Well, Ohio is like behind the rest of the world. You know what I mean? Like I come from DC. So DC is moving like this, where Ohio is like. And so some shit happens over here, and then Ohio's like, well, shit, 20 years later. And it's like that shit should have happened 20 years ago. Like the fact that we don't have a train, a metro system, but we want to do economic development. Well, guess what? If you live inner city, you can't fucking get to the suburbs where all of the businesses are. All right, you're building all of these businesses out in New Albany. How the fuck somebody's supposed to get from Linden or downtown or Hilltop or all these places if they don't have a car? Like most people don't have like you might have a car. That shit might be a beater though. And like you're not moving out here in Ohio on these streets in a beater too long. And so again, you need transportation, public transportation to help people. Because again, not everybody's going to be able to afford to live out in New Albany or Westerville or Worthington or Dublin or Upper Arlington or where. This is where the money at. It's where the big business is at. And so I think a lot of people, I was living in Upper Arlington. I'm like, shit, I was making good money. Upper Arlington, up until the Trump shit, man. The whole Trump shit, the first one blew me because I was in Upper Arlington making bread, man. Like all of my clients were CEOs and executives. I didn't own the gym. I was doing sports performance gym. I didn't own the gym. And so I had full access to the gym, but then the gym owners started putting Trump stickers on the file cabinet. They was cool, but I'm like, nah, buddy, we can't. I can't. Nah, you ain't about to catch me slipping. You know what I mean? So we would be in like, they had like a trainer room, and there was the office. And I'm like, once I seen that Trump magnet go up, I was like, deuces. Took all my money and my clients with me. You know what I mean? And so like I was getting it was a 60-40 split. So I had a 60%, they was getting 40. I had seven different executives and CEOs and their families that I was training, personal training. And so, but it was at that moment, it was like 2015, 2016. And I was like, yeah, I can't do this shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not about to be on this. And like, y'all super rich over here. What the fuck is y'all complaining about? Y'all got everything. Like, what is wrong over here? You know what I mean? Like, what is wrong in your world that Trump got y'all doing what y'all doing? I just didn't get it. Right. And so it was at that point where I was like, but that's also where my advocacy started. I started being more vocal in Upper Arlington, because I was like, Upper Arlington don't even have no black people. Like, I was like, there's no black people. And that was just odd to me, being a suburb of Columbus and being that Columbus was so close, Ohio State was so close. And, they were, touting, Upper Arlington as being this high class, very educated community. I'm like, how are you super educated and you don't got no black people that live here? That's crazy to me. And you got a university. So, but I had to get up out of there for my mental health and my sanity, you know what I mean? And weed wasn't legal yet. So, but that started my advocacy work on just speaking up. And I think more people need to do that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think the race thing is like, for me, yeah, I'm black. Like, I deal with certain things. As a white person, I don't know. Like, I know if I was white, I'd be lit. Like, black people wouldn't stop me from doing shit. Like, I'd own multiple businesses. I'd own hella real estate. I'd be rich as fuck because I just be doing shit. I just, like, for me, like, I can't do everything. Like, I have to think. If I do this shit, like, if I go there, am I protected? You know what I mean? Like, you white, you're not thinking about shit. Like, you show up wherever the fuck you want to show up. So for me, it's like, especially in the cannabis shit, like, y'all should be going ham, talking hella shit, talking to the politicians crazy. Like, the ones that do, there's a few. Shout out to Justin Vet. My guy Justin Vet, y'all need to follow him on TikTok, Facebook. He talk a lot of shit. He be going after these politicians. My guy EBT THC, Eric. But these politicians, they work for y'all, man. Like, if you're a white person poor in Ohio, like, you better go talk to your politicians, man, because they got bread. I'm telling y'all. I love the rooster. You should check out Chapo Trap House. He had the rooster on an episode. I definitely will check that out. Chapo Trap House. I gotta get ready to go here. What time is it? I'll write that down so I don't forget. Chapo. And I know it's a bunch of accounts out of Ohio too, but we got to start joining forces. Thankful for your Ohio specific coverage. Oh, I appreciate that, man. It means a lot too. I mean, honestly, when I started, like, it was just something on my heart, right? It was just an idea. I looked up Ohio Cannabis Report, so I own the domain and stuff. So it was just something on my heart, and I'm like, man, like, because I'm not like, I smoke weed, I like weed, but I'm not a grower. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not somebody, like, I did grow my own. This is some of my first harvest. I did do some home grow. But like, I know there's people that really love this shit. You know what I mean? Like, on a very, like, real level. And so I would rather support them. But also, like, I understand, like, there's not many people that want to put their face to cannabis yet, or not a lot of people that maybe have the stamina to talk about it or whatever, So for me, it was like, it was an opportunity. I saw a vision, of like, it wasn't even necessarily monetarily, but it was also like, it could be like, if I wanted to be, there's something that, I mean, this could be a business. Like, this is a media company. Like, I do want to build more of a network. I do want to have multiple podcasts on the Ohio Cannabis Report channel and network. I want to do branding. I want to do merchandise. I want to do events, live events. I want to do, research work. You know what I mean? Like, and I have a nonprofit. So a lot of that stuff, it's hard for me to do everything on my own, but also I'm a very I like to do shit. I don't like to delegate. Like, I don't like to have to tell people what to do. You know what I mean? Or how to do something. So like the social media shit, like I literally have StreamYard. Like, I would love to have a team, but I have StreamYard, so I could do all the graphics and stuff myself, which is pretty basic. So it looks professional or whatever. I'm not my wife. My wife is a true journalist. My wife actually won a Emmy. So I don't categorize myself as a journalist or anything like that, but I just try to cover, because I know there's a lot fucking going on. Even like, I don't get half of the shit, honestly. But there's so much going on. And for me, it was an outlet for me to be creative, but it was also a way for me to create a community, but also a way to create opportunities, networks, and hopefully, motivate and inspire and give encouragement to other people to, step out of the shadows a little bit. Because again, like, it's still very uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like, people follow me for different reasons. And I fell back from the public spotlight after my NFL tryout, because at one point, I had over 10,000 followers on Instagram, but you get to a point where like people are following you because, they follow you for sports, right? They don't necessarily follow you for your life. They're not necessarily, so they can kind of, like, once you start to speak your truth about like your reality, and then people are like, well, wait, you're an All-American football player on scholarship and you tried out for the NFL. What do you mean like your life isn't perfect? Or what do you mean like you struggle? Or what do you mean like racism still is a thing? It's like, yeah, you know what I mean? Just because I'm a good athlete, my parents made good money, doesn't mean like I don't have to deal with the societal issues that come with coming from poverty, working class America, just because my athletic ability and I went to good school, so I got a good education. Like, that doesn't, when people look at me, they don't just be like, oh, like he just super smart or he's an athlete. Like, no, you got to deal with like, oh, people think you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Or people think you're a criminal, or people think, so then you add the cannabis layer on top of that. And let's say business, or when, this up here, this is a mentorship award that I won. And so, when you go as an athlete, you go speak to kids or you go to do like community service, and the image is like, we have you on this pedestal as this clean cut, pristine thing. You don't do anything wrong. And it's like, well, I don't think weed is anything wrong, but when it's illegal, it is. Right. And so you present as this athlete, this successful being, and you, to the kids, they're looking up to you, they're idolizing you because they see you on TV, you're big, you're strong, but in reality, like, you're a human being. You deal with the same shit that everybody else deal with. You deal with anxiety, you deal with depression, stress, pain, physical pain, grief, all the while you have to perform in front of people all the time. You know what I mean? If people see you in public, it don't matter if you're having a bad day or a good day, they know you. So because if you don't, then it's like, oh, he's a fucking asshole, he's a fucking dick, man. It's like, no, he's a fucking human being. And most human beings don't want anybody coming up to them in public, let alone with a flash or a camera. Oh, well, you know what you signed up for. No, the fuck you don't. You really don't. As a child, you don't know what you're signing up for, right? If you play sports, you're a child and you just keep playing and you just keep getting better and better and you go pro, and it's like, oh, well, I didn't realize this shit was going to be like this. So it gets a little weird. And so I think it's important, for humans to fucking understand that we are all human, whether somebody is put on a pedestal because they're a successful athlete, successful entertainer, a successful business person, they're all human beings, we are all human beings. So, let me see. All right, I'm gonna cover some of these. I don't know if I've shared a recent update of the numbers. There was a couple articles though. I'll do a couple headlines and then I'm gonna get out of y'all way for today. but I just wanted to create some content because it's been a few days. Shout out to Marijuana Moment. They always have some pretty good content. So you have patients in New York's medical marijuana program saw significantly reduced opioid prescriptions, federally funded study shows. Medical marijuana home cultivation would be legalized in Florida under Senator's new bill. New Hampshire lawmakers profile multiple marijuana bills for 2026, including measure to let voters legalize on the ballot. Senator blocks confirmation of Trump's unqualified White House drug Caesar pick, who has voiced medical marijuana support. Kentucky's first medical marijuana dispensary will open in the next couple of weeks. Governor says, touting cannabis as opioid alternative. So that's a big one. I mean, since Kentucky, we're a neighbor in Kentucky. Kentucky's governor says the state is very, very close to launching its medical marijuana program, which he expects to happen within the next couple of weeks. A move, he says, will help thousands of patients find an alternative to opioids for pain management. During a press briefing on Thursday, Governor Andy Beshear, Democrat, was asked by a reporter to provide a status update on the medical cannabis law. He said that the first dispensary based in Ohio County is set to have products on shelves in weeks, but we believe it's going to scale up very quickly from the first moment, the governor said. Beshear went through more granular granular details about the program's progress, touting the fact that 23,757 patients have received their e-certifications to access cannabis, including 1,756 who qualified to treat symptoms of cancer and 15,412 with chronic pain who would have otherwise been taking opioids, which is one of the reasons that we've pushed this program so hard. With respect to marijuana business licensing, the state has so far approved 16 cultivators, 48 dispensaries, and 6 safety compliance facilities. Officials have additionally certified 506 doctors to issue medical cannabis recommendations. Our office of medical cannabis had staff in 3 different locations completing facility inspections. Beshear added, so what that means is within 1 year of awarding cultivation licenses, we now have multiple cultivators with harvested product that are in the testing phase. We are very, very close, he said. The governor made much of crossing a 15,000 patient registration milestone in late October, but that's evidently grown meaningfully in the recent weeks. The state's first medical cannabis dispensary was officially approved for operations in August, which Beshear called another step forward as we work to ensure Kentuckians with serious medical conditions have access to the medicine they need and deserve. He previously touted an earlier success in the state's forthcoming medical marijuana program, with a licensed cultivator producing the first medical cannabis inventory in Kentucky history. In July, Beshear sent a letter to President Donald Trump urging him to reject congressional spending bill provisions that would prevent the Justice Department from rescheduling marijuana. In the letter to the president, he emphasized that the pending proposal to move cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under the Controlled Substances Act, CSA, is something you supported in your presidential campaign. The process should be allowed to play out. Americans deserve leadership that won't move the goalposts on them in the middle of the game, Beshear said, noting that he was among the tens of thousands who submitted public comments in favor of the reform after it was initiated under the Biden administration, demonstrating broad public interest in rescheduling. I joined that effort because this is about helping people. Rescheduling would provide suffering patients the relief they need, the governor said. It would ensure communities are safer because legal medical products reduce the illicit market. It would provide new, meaningful research on health benefits. Beshear also mentioned a letter to the DEA he signed onto last year urging rescheduling. Because the jury is no longer on marijuana, it has medical benefits. Back on the state level, the governor recently said he acknowledges that it's taken longer than he would have liked to stand up an industry since he signed medical marijuana legalization law into law in 2023. In recognition of that delayed implementation, he recently signed an executive order to waive renewal fees for patients who get their cards this year so that they don't get charged again before retailers open. And another order he signed providing protections for qualified patients who obtain medical marijuana outside of Kentucky will stay in place. Bashir separately announced in May that the state has launched a new online directory that lets people see where medical cannabis dispensaries will be opening near them. He emphasized that the state has been working to deliver access to patients at the earliest possible date, and that involved expediting the licensing process. The governor in January also ceremonially awarded the Commonwealth's first medical marijuana cards. Meanwhile, the governor sent a letter to Kentucky's congressional delegation in January urging them to take decisive action to protect the constitutional rights of our law-abiding medical cannabis patients by repealing the federal ban on gun possession by people who use marijuana. That came after bipartisan Kentucky senators filed legislation that similarly called on the state's federal representatives to take corrective action, which Bashir said he supports, but would like to see even more sweeping change on the federal level. The Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives warned Kentucky residents late last year that if they choose to participate in the state's medical marijuana program, they will be prohibited from buying or possessing firearms under federal law. As far as the implementation of the state's medical cannabis laws goes, Bashir said that his state of Commonwealth addresses in January the patients will have access to cannabis sometime this year. He also later shared tips for patients to find a doctor and get registered to participate in the cannabis program. Health practitioners have been able to start assessing patients for recommendations since the beginning of last December. While there currently aren't any up and running dispensaries available to patients, Bashir has further affirmed that an executive order he signed in 2023 will stay in effect in the interim, protecting patients who possess medical cannabis purchased at out of state licensed retailers. During last year's November elections, Kentucky also saw more than 100 cities and counties approve local ordinances to allow medical cannabis businesses in their jurisdictions. The governor said the election's results demonstrate that the jury is no longer out on the issue, that it is clearly supported by voters across partisan and geographical lines. Whoa, that was an article. Shout out to Kentucky. Got this saved to watch this evening while I'm relaxing. Salute, but I appreciate you, Buckeye Records. Appreciate it. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Share if you like the content. Share it out on your Facebook and social media. I'm trying to build it out. I think we got like 156 subscribers. Now, I did restart a page. Like I have an old page, Ohio Cannabis Report, that I still have control and access of, but we started fresh on this page, so I'm building it from scratch. Also on Instagram, we have two pages. We have under Ohio Cannabis Report with no underscores, and then we have Ohio _cannabis underscore report. So I run both of those pages. So if you're on Instagram, please follow us on there as well. We do lives on there sometimes. Actually, I can't do live on the underscore one. I could do live on the original, but I have to do it from Facebook. So it's kind of why I've just been going to YouTube as of late, because it's just a little bit more streamlined on here. I don't know if I've done the recent November updates, so we'll just go over it really quick before I have to bounce out of here. So here's the latest DCC numbers. This is Ohio: 37 certificates of operation, 23 level 1 dual use certificates of operation, 14 level 2. That's for cultivators, processors, 46 certificates of operations. A lot of these are, again, dual use. So somebody's cultivating and also processing. You have 8 total testing labs, 186 dual use certificates of operations. Also, and even if you're in the comments, let me know where you're tapping in from. I'm in the 614 Columbus, Ohio area. We're in North Columbus. Then you have physicians. We have 528 certified physicians to recommend cannabis. Patients, we have 1,216,209 recommendations, 463,580 registered patients. 26,104 patients with veteran status, 26,876 patients with indignant status, 1,557 patients with terminal diagnoses, 88,557 patients with both an active registration and an active recommendation, which is hella low. The benefits of having a medical card is you don't have to pay the same taxes, right? So I have a medical card in Ohio, so there are some benefits to having a medical card. There are over like 20 plus reasons you can have a medical card. Now, some of the doctors are taxing on med cards, so I don't it weighs out. I got my med card for free. So, you know what I mean? But that's also because I partnered with Dr. Bridget is my medical cannabis doctor. And so obviously me being a author in her book, I promote her products, her brand, so she hooks me up. So shout out to Dr. Bridget. Then you have 443,366 unique patients who purchased medical marijuana as reported by ORS as of 11/15/2025. You have 42,213 registered caregivers. And here's our total sales figures as of 11/22/2025. Medical sales began on January 14th, 2019. Non-medical sales began August 6, 2024. Pounds of plant material, non-medical, 155,880. Medical, 337,981 for a grand total of 493,846 pounds of plant material sold. Units of manufactured product total 48,609,000. Total product sales 976 for non-medical. You have 976,832,000. $454, almost at $1 billion. It's probably at $1 billion now. The medical sales, you have $2,272,018,895 for a total of $3,248,852,387 of total cannabis sales. That's rec and adult. The average plant sales per 10th OZ is $18.07. Plant sales average per gram, $6.38. Manufacturer sales average is $25.29. Then I'll show you guys a map, just like I always do, so you guys can see where all the dispensaries are in the state of Ohio, and you can see how much open space is still left. Again, we have 186. They were saying that we're going to have at least 400, I believe. So here's the list of those dispensaries as well, has phone numbers. Again, this is all public record too, y'all. So if y'all want to know information, y'all can contact these people, these dispensaries. They're only showing me, I don't know why they're only showing me like 4. Let's see. For some reason, they're only showing me a handful today. Oh, yeah, I want to show y'all this too because it just shows y'all. So licenses, look at this. Application fee, $5,000, non-refundable. Initial fee, certificate of operations, $70,000. Biannual licensing renewal fee, $70K. Like the average person can't afford that, right? Cultivators. Application fee, $20,000. Initial fee, certificate of operation, $180,000. Annual licensing renewal fee, $200,000 for level 1. Level 2 application fee, $2,000. Initial fee, $18,000. Annual licensing renewal fee, $20,000. This is also why we need level 3, right? So level 3 should be way less. It should also, those funds that have been recouped should go to help paying for those social equity licenses. So Oh, sorry. It looks like I got logged off. Let me see. We need to protect out-of-state purchases here in Ohio. It's crazy they want to make out-of-state purchases even more legal, for sure. Well, and that's why we need to reject everything that they are proposing in SB 56, right? Like SB 56 is total trash, and they're wasting taxpayer dollars even trying to even do something about it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. I'm at work right now, but I also am living in Columbus from Tuscarawas County originally, though. All dope. Certain dispensaries in Michigan respect Ohio med cards. Oh, that's respect. And that's the thing. I know people are going up to Michigan, but I think we need more conversation around like what's happening, right? Like what, who's respecting what? You know what I mean? Like I can't really follow everything, but I know a lot of people are doing their, monthly, bi-weekly trips, you know, community trips up to Michigan. And hey, whatever you got to do that makes sense to you, do it. Yeah, I've been up to Michigan a couple times. Support your local growers. Some of these dispensaries, some of these cultivators, they're not bad. You know what I mean? So I think the problem in Ohio is you got to shop, right? You kind of got to have time to shop. And if you don't have time to shop, it's kind of difficult. I have some really good deals out by me. I have Amplify, which is like Buckeye Relief. And I'm really not a flower person from them. Like I get my flower, like I said, I got my own flower. So from them, I get more so like topicals, stuff like that, vape pens, carts, stuff like that. But a lot of my stuff I get on sale too. Like I don't really, I'm by Sapphire, and Sapphire always has like 30% off. Yeah, the fees are the problem. All right, yeah, I gotta tune out. Gotta go get my kids from school. But I appreciate y'all tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, follow us on all of our social media pages. Don't forget to be kind to one another, be kind to yourselves, love on each other. I know I know a lot of people are going through a lot of tough times right now with the political climate. But at the end of the day, I think humanity, at the end of the day, we all have to remember that we're all human. We're all dealing with something. Many of us are dealing with grief of a lost one, some type of pain, some type of anxiety, some type of stressor. So, if you black, white, yellow, pink, red, blue, somebody dealing with something. You know what I mean? So remember that as you go out into the world, share your weed with somebody, you know what I mean? Make somebody's day brighter, a little bit more blessed. So appreciate y'all tuning in. Peace.